Myanmar, a land of shiny gold temples and green valleys, is a fascinating country in Southeast Asia. Its history is full of exciting stories about ancient kings, British rule, and the fight for freedom. Myanmar sits between India and China, which has shaped its history for a long time. The Irrawaddy River, like the heart of the country, flows through it, connecting different groups of people and old cities. Today, Myanmar is at an important point, dealing with its past while trying to build a peaceful and successful future. Myanmar's story is one of strength and change. From great empires to tough times, the country has seen both good and bad. Its past still affects Myanmar today, shaping who they are and where they're going. This video will explore Myanmar's complicated past, looking at its history, economy and politics. Myanmar's story starts thousands of years ago with early groups of people who made a big impact. The Pyu people, who lived from a few hundred years before Jesus to the 800s, built advanced cities and traded with other places. They left behind amazing ruins, like the old city of Sri Kshetra, showing how skilled they were at building and their rich culture. When the Burma people arrived in the 800s, it was a very important time for Myanmar. They came from Yunnan in China and settled in the Irrawaddy Valley. Their language and traditions became the most common, creating a Burmese identity. The Burma created strong kingdoms like the Pagan Kingdom, which became very important and shaped Myanmar's culture and religion for hundreds of years. After the Pagan Kingdom fell apart in the late 1200s, Myanmar broke into smaller parts, and groups kept changing sides. Different areas like the Ava Kingdom in the middle, the Hanthawaddy Kingdom in the south, and the Merauke Kingdom in the west all fought for control. The Shan states in the eastern hills stayed mostly independent, and their rulers sometimes teamed up with the kingdoms in the lower lands. This time had both fighting and sharing of ideas. The kingdoms fought over land and power, often going to war and switching sides. But even with all the fighting, cultural and religious ideas still spread between the different areas. Buddhism, which started during the Pagan Kingdom, continued to grow and helped unite people even when they were divided politically. In the 1500s, the Toungoo Dynasty came to power and united most of Myanmar. King Tabin Shweti, a great military leader, won many battles and made the Toungoo Kingdom bigger. He took over the Hanthawaddy Kingdom in the south and stopped attacks from Siam, which is now Thailand. His son, King Bayanang, made the empire even stronger, taking over parts of Laos, Thailand and China. The Toungoo Dynasty was a great time for Myanmar. The empire was mostly peaceful and successful, trade was good, and the kings supported art and literature. But eventually the Toungoo Dynasty lost power and fell apart in the mid-1700s. A new dynasty, the Konbaung, rose up and united and expanded the country again. The Konbaung dynasty, although strong at first, faced a big problem: the growing British Empire. The British East India Company wanted to control trade in the area and slowly took over more of Myanmar. Several wars between the British and Burmese from 1824 to 1885 ended with Myanmar becoming part of British India. British rule changed Myanmar in many ways. The British created new rules, changed the economy to help themselves, and made changes to education and society. Some of these changes were good, but they also hurt traditional ways of life, made problems between different groups worse, and caused future conflicts. After World War II, when the British Empire fell apart, Myanmar became independent in 1948. The country, rich in culture and history, was hopeful for a new beginning. However, the joy of independence was short-lived, as the nation soon found itself embroiled in internal conflicts. But the new country immediately had problems with fighting and disagreements between different groups. These conflicts were rooted in long-standing ethnic tensions that had been simmering for decades, even under British rule. Many ethnic groups, wanting more freedom or complete independence, fought against the government. These groups included the Karen, Shan, Kachin and others. each with their own unique identities and aspirations. The Karen, Shan, Kachin and other groups fought long wars to protect their rights and culture. Their struggles were marked by intense battles and a deep desire to preserve their way of life against a central government that they felt did not represent them. During this time, the military, called the Tatmadaw, became more powerful. The Tatmadaw saw itself as the only force capable of holding the country together amidst the chaos. In 1962, General Ne Win took control of the government, starting a military rule that lasted for many years. His coup was seen as a necessary step by some to bring stability, but it also marked the beginning of a repressive regime. The military leaders, focused on Burmese nationalism and socialist ideas, created rules that gave them all the power, stopped anyone who disagreed with them, and made the problems between different groups even worse. Their policies led to widespread human rights abuses and further alienated the ethnic minorities. Myanmar became isolated from the rest of the world, and its economy suffered because of sanctions and bad management. The isolation not only stunted economic growth, but also kept the country in a state of political and social turmoil for decades. In the early 2000s, after being isolated for a long time, Myanmar started to connect with the world again. The country, which had been under military rule for decades, began to open its doors to international trade and diplomacy. This marked the beginning of a significant transformation for the nation. The military leaders, facing economic problems and criticism from other countries, started to change some of their political and economic rules. They realized that in order to survive and maintain control, they needed to adapt to the changing global landscape. A new constitution in 2008 started a slow move towards democracy, but the military still had a lot of power. This constitution allowed for some civilian participation in government, but key positions remained under military control, ensuring their influence over the country's future. When some sanctions were lifted and the country started to have more of a free market, the economy began to grow. This newfound economic freedom attracted foreign investments and spurred local entrepreneurship, leading to a noticeable improvement in the standard of living for many urban residents. Businesses from other countries invested in Myanmar, interested in its natural resources, cheap labour and important location. The influx of foreign capital helped to modernize various sectors, including manufacturing, mining and agriculture. Myanmar's economy grew quickly, with GDP growth over 6% each year between 2011 and 2016. This rapid growth was driven by increased foreign investment, a burgeoning middle class, and significant improvements in infrastructure and technology. The phone system changed a lot too, with many more people getting cell phones. The telecommunications revolution connected millions of people, providing them with access to information and new economic opportunities. But this growth wasn't the same for everyone, and many people, especially in the countryside and minority groups, were left behind. The economic disparity between urban and rural areas became more pronounced, highlighting the need for inclusive policies to ensure that all citizens benefit from the country's progress. Even though the economy grew in recent years, Myanmar still has big problems. Many people are poor, especially in the countryside and in minority groups. The World Bank said that about 25% of people were poor in 2017, before the COVID-19 pandemic, and the 2021 coup made things even worse. Inequality is another big problem. Not everyone benefited from the economic growth, and a small group of rich people got most of the money. Corruption, bad government and a lack of transparency made it hard to fix these problems. On top of that, Myanmar has had many humanitarian crises, often because of long-running ethnic conflicts and natural disasters. Myanmar's future is uncertain. The country stands at a pivotal moment in its history, facing numerous challenges and opportunities that will shape its destiny. The country is at a crossroads, dealing with its past while trying to build a peaceful and successful future. The rich cultural heritage and the resilience of its people offer a foundation upon which to build. The military coup in February 2021, which overthrew the elected government, created a new crisis. This event has had far-reaching consequences, affecting every aspect of life in Myanmar. The military's violence against its own people, attacks on civilians and ignoring human rights have been condemned by many countries and caused more displacement and suffering. The international community has called for an end to the violence and a return to democratic governance. Even with these huge challenges, there is still hope. The spirit of resistance and the desire for a better future remain strong among the people. The people of Myanmar are strong and brave. Their resilience in the face of adversity is a testament to their enduring spirit and determination. Groups working for positive change, even though they are being suppressed, continue to fight for peace, justice and democracy. These grassroots movements are the backbone of the struggle for a better Myanmar. Other countries, even though they don't all agree on how to help, can play an important role in supporting the people of Myanmar. International solidarity and aid are crucial in these times of crisis. In the end, the future of Myanmar depends on its people. Their collective will and actions will determine the path the country takes. Their determination to build a fairer society where everyone can live in peace will decide the country's future. Education, community efforts, and a shared vision for a better tomorrow are key to this transformation. The road ahead is difficult, but there is still a chance for a better future, waiting to happen. With unity, perseverance, and hope, Myanmar can overcome its challenges and embrace its potential.